you're rational right now, you're gonna have a timeout.
No, please.
Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Adam, and this is SasqWatch.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2006 film, Abominable.
Paramedics come to try to clear an air passage, and this guy's buried under 30 gallons of diarrhea, man.
Well, I think we'd both seen this one before. I think
Right,
this is the first time that's happened. So this is one that I knew I liked going into. I'd seen this film a couple times before, and I just always knew that, I was going to have a good time with it.
Yeah, I knew it was the best one that I had seen. I still don't want to say that I really like this movie, but I like it, but I don't know that I think it's really a good or great movie. Maybe just good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty solid. Watching it again, I think I noticed a few more.
New message.
Well, one nice thing about having seen this before is I actually already owned it, so I didn't have to go to Amazon Prime for this one. I was pretty gleeful about that. I think I bought this at a DVD guy 7 years ago at a flea market, and I tore off all the little stickers. So it's always nice to break an old movie out of the case.
Satisfied.
All right, so in Abominable, we have our main character, Preston Rogers. He was previously in an accident where he lost his legs and his wife. And he has been ordered by his doctor to visit his home.
His old house, right?
Yeah, or a home they had together in the woods.
Which isn't ready for him as far as he's in a wheelchair and he's going back there. It's not been suited for a person in a wheelchair, which is kind of weird. The doctor seems like kind of a jerk for making him go do that. He's not even used to being in a wheelchair yet, and he's got stairs and ledges and
Right.
they didn't show us, but I question how he had going to the bathroom there, what kind of a time that was.
Right, and this doctor
Gives him this terrible nurse. His nurse is Otis, and we meet Otis when he's peeing kind of into the wind off of a
bridge.
cliff. The first thing he does is just be rude to this sad wheelchair bound man. He just cuts off his radio and he just starts right away. He's just I'm in charge. If you decide to be a jerk, you don't have any legs.
Woo!
Much better. Hey, what are you doing?
Let's get this show on the road.
Oh, I was listening to that.
What do you say we lay a few ground rules right now, Preston? Dr. Rayner, he released you into my care. That means I'm gonna be calling the shots from here on out.
Who does that? Who what doctor? What is he, a psychiatrist? Why is he even sending him here in the first place?
You
He's just
assume he
no,
was
it'll be good.
the doctor in charge of his spine. That's what I would think.
Right, because you can tell he doesn't want to go.
Well, yeah, and Otis, he's dressed in scrubs the whole movie, but you think you said, why, does he need to be?
He never, yeah.
Do you need to be dressed in scrubs if you're just, taking a dude in a wheelchair somewhere? I guess...
presumably for multiple days. Does he have, a bunch of different scrubs with him?
Well, he seems like he was given, maybe, a note card worth of information about this patient. Because, they get there, and the first thing he says is, hey, I'm going to make your smoothie, but with regular milk. And the guy's just I'm lactose intolerant.
Oh, well, in the commentary, though, the director points out that he did that on purpose, so that he would have an excuse to go back into town.
Unless you want regular milk.
You didn't bring the soy milk?
Regular milk's not gonna kill you, Preston.
Otis, I'm allergic.
All right. I'll go back into town and I'll buy you some.
Otis, I'm sorry. You don't have to go back into town.
Don't worry about it. 30 minutes.
No. Look, Otis, I'd kind of rather not be alone right now.
30 minutes, Mr. R. You'll be just fine.
You know, it's like Otis is horribly neglectful, and like this is definitely longer than an hour because we see it go from like broad daylight to like twilight to nighttime before he gets back.
I mean, he basically run through the timeline of events just from the perspective of I'm a nurse here to help this man, not only like be in a wheelchair, he got in the accident 6 months ago, but to like deal with his like dead wife and can't actually like function in this house that he owns, and so you show up. You immediately like get rude with him, and then you just leave him for like several hours while he's just stuck in the house, and then you get back and he gets back from that, immediately makes a dinner of like fried green tomatoes and starts heavily drinking and then passes out.
Another thing that just struck me, I think I'm when we see Otis at the store, before they stop at a store where they meet a character played by Jeffrey Combs.
I love Jeffrey Combs in this movie.
Named Clerk.
He's got his like oxygen like in his nose and his hat. Jeffrey Combs sells to me like the Bigfoot community more than a lot of other like pop-in characters we've had, because it's not that he's like he's not telling them like you're all gonna die at the cabin. He's just like, hey guys, welcome to Bigfoot country.
Suicide Rock. Not many people go up there nowadays, I can tell you that. Not since the accident.
While they're there, he buys this huge box of Rice Krispies. So, you know, I guess that, you know, you wouldn't forget the milk if you were buying a huge box of Rice Krispies.
He bought Rice Krispies.
Well, he bought regular milk for him.
Yeah.
Just didn't get the soy milk because Preston's allergic to regular milk.
So yeah, they get the Rice Krispies, and then the girls show up at the neighboring cabin, and they also got Rice Krispies.
Yeah, they drop one of their bags, and they also have not just like a regular box. It's like a big box. They're like, how long are these girls here for this bachelor party? Because that's what these girls have showed up for. Bachelorette party, right.
You weren't with us in elementary.
You know what? Okay, fine. All right, fine.
You know, right? Usually you saw just the junior high.
Bobby Thomas behind the locker.
You get like 10 minutes in, and you're like, this is gonna be like a quieter movie about this like wheelchair bound man and his feelings, and then the Jeep pulls up with the 4 girls.
That music.
It's very much like Rear Window meets a Bigfoot slasher film, where you got the guy in the house with the binoculars that have like the incredible zoom function, and he's like watching Bigfoot kill these girls first, and then eventually he like wrangles one of them to come over, and then they have part 2 where Bigfoot attacks their house. And
that's kind of
that's the whole movie, really.
Thing.
But I think the simplicity of it is what works for the movie so well, because there's like, you know, we could make fun of the little things, like when he goes to that fictional website to look up the one girl's
just put in
cell phone.
Yeah, even if you spell it wrong, you can
he
still...
spelled it wrong. We looked in the credits; it's spelled completely different. But he just finds her cell phone, emails it to her like little old, not even a flip phone. It was one that you like slide.
Yeah, this is 2006. So.
Yeah.
And yeah, he emails her like text message.
Yeah, he's emailing the cops with that ridiculous email where he's
because the phone he goes after is after the monster comes in and grabs Karen Turdberger. They're calling her Turdberger.
They're not calling her Turdberger. They said Herdberger. She's the only one. There's 2 characters with last names in the whole movie, and it's Karen Herdberger and it's Dick Halloran, the sheriff.
Dick Halloran. Halderman?
Halderman. Damn it.
Does he have a first name?
Yeah, it's Dick. It's Dick Halderman.
Dick Halloran is my porn screen. Dick Halloran.
What's the matter with you guys?
I think the 2 most ridiculous things, like aside from Otis being a registered nurse, is the email to the police, because you're thinking like, okay, you're asking people to come help you, and he's typing and you see him think about it, and he puts taken by some ... creature. And you're like, come on, dude.
He consistently communicates very poorly with his email.
Yeah, and then he pulls up the video because he's like, he's got to be like looking up like local like attacks or something, and somehow he finds this pop-up video of Dr. Seussman. Dr. Seussmeyer.
Dr. Seussman.
Yeah, Dr. Seussmeyer pops up on his. He can't even make it a full screen video. It's like a little little window.
Seussmeyer's convinced. You know, we don't know what he's a doctor of. Maybe he's another one of these cryptozoology doctors.
They got him in front of a fireplace with like a chair 10 feet taller than he is.
And he's just like, oh well. Yes, I do think whatever this is, it's been killing livestock. It will attack people. And then he's like, oh, so you think there's some kind of Bigfoot out here? And he's like, not a Bigfoot, no.
Bigger than Bigfoot, stronger than Bigfoot.
Something more like the abominable snowman of the Himalayas.
And meaner. This is more like the abominable snowman of the Himalayas. Vicious, dangerous.
This is where there's a strange group of people out there that will insist that a Yeti or an abominable snowman is different from the Bigfoot. They'll try to pry those things apart and make
like
two
the same
camps.
kind of legends. Although I'll say, if he's trying to say it's two different things, I mean, I think he's wrong if that's the case, because this dude's brown. I've never seen that. And an abominable snowman. And
well, a
the
snowman
Bigfoot,
you would think
like,
would be made of snow. So I've always just discarded that completely. Like it's a Yeti if it's anything different. And the only difference is
when
just
I Googled
where they
abominable
live.
snowman, it just redirected me to Yeti, basically.
Well, we're not going to treat them as two different things. We're just not going to.
The movies certainly don't really treat them like two different things.
To me, that would be like saying, like, we're going to cover movies about bears, but we're not going to cover movies about polar bears. That's a different thing. Like, it's just, we're not going to have that'd be two shows. We're not going to do two shows. So they're going to be one thing for our purposes.
Right.
So Dr. Seussmeyer is way off. So yeah, the plot's very simple. It's basically just Bigfoot breaking into these houses, mashing and bashing and eating whoever's inside. There's like a fun, lighthearted nature to it. It's like, it's not a joke. They take it seriously enough, but there's still like, you know, little gags here and there, or like little set pieces. Part of what I really like about this movie, and the reason I think a lot of people in the Bigfoot film community kind of put it up there, is that there's not a lot of like unnecessary nonsense you have to wade through. Like there's the scene with the hunters, but you don't have to spend like a quarter of the film following them through the woods on some conspiracy theory.
And they've been built into the film, well, except for Lance Henriksen, but the other two have been built into the film in a way where it's like, okay, we know who these people are when this scene starts. And that just makes the hunter characters that much better, because most of the ones we've seen before just show up and die, and we never really had
time they
character.
don't die. Most of the time we spend the vast majority of these movies following these people, and then they make it at the end, and you're like, what?
Not the hunters. Usually they're the only ones
freaking
that do
kids
die.
from Claude, all 4 of them made it. That whole movie. This movie, people actually get eaten and killed, and that's nice. And it might not be incredibly thought-provoking, but like I like that Bigfoot shows up and like he's killing people in the shower, but he's not trying to get into the shower. I don't have to wrestle with like some ludicrous nonsense like that as far as Bigfoot's motivations. Like, I guess he knows to take the phones out, but I'll take that over like Bigfoot has come to like breed with these bachelorettes.
Bachelorette Bigfoot edition.
Where there is absolutely nothing to do. Yeah, she's having fun. I miss you so much.
After the first girl gets taken, there's the scene where it's the clerk guy from the store.
Jeffrey comes in his oxygen show.
Yeah, and then we got
Lance Henriksen shows up.
Right, he's their third friend, and then it's the guy from the very beginning who like witnesses Bigfoot. At the very beginning, we see a guy who comes out with his wife and dog, and like they see Bigfoot.
Seen a bear that can. Sparky, no! Get back here! Sparky!
So that's something, somewhat interesting though, because most of the other ones, animals like won't go anywhere near Bigfoot, and we hear animals in the forest in this one and stuff like that. So Bigfoot's not.
I think Bigfoot in this film, or Yeti, or the Abominable, we'll call them that. The Abominable. It seems between, if we're gonna take Dr. Seuss Meyer's general positing and compare that with like how people react, it seems like Bigfoot is coming to this area for the first time. It's migrating.
What about your cell phone?
We already tried it. Can't get reception in here.
After Amanda comes to the house, he's trying to rally her. He has injected Otis with whatever Otis was trying to inject him with. He's passed out on the floor and has been for a while. And, he's got to rouse her because she's broken. She's seen all of her friends brutally murdered. So he's got to tell her, he's got his big speech to give her.
Yeah.
And it starts out with,
there's something I have to tell you.
Yeah, there's something you need to know.
First he says, he's like, all right, well, Bigfoot's probably full from eating your friends.
Yeah.
So we've probably got a few minutes
there's a couple
to
things
chat.
animals do.
The first thing you need to understand about animals is that they are hostile for just a couple of reasons. The first one being if they're hungry. And the second one being if their territory or their young are threatened. I don't think that thing is still hungry.
And then he's just like, all right, like there's something you gotta know. I
Critical
wasn't always in a
information.
wheelchair. I had a climbing accident, and that made me decide that I want to live.
My wife, she died.
Yeah.
But I only lost the use of my legs.
He was like, now I have the will to live again. So like, let's you live too. Let's get this Bigfoot. Let's get out of here. They want to get out of there. So then they
have to rappel out of the back of the house, basically.
And then we get this funny little tug of war with him without his legs laying on the ground trying to pull Amanda down, and Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot's like
pulling
pulling
her back up.
And then that's when Otis has his big like savior moment, and he like
for some reason, even though we don't like him.
Yeah, he like shows up and like hits him with the axe and has that great line.
Hey, ass monkey, eat this.
And so then Bigfoot turns around, kills Otis, probably the best kill scene in the movie. Although I really liked when he gets Tracy and pulls her through the window. That's probably my favorite because it's how strong he is.
Yeah. They escape the house. Bigfoot comes after him. They can't get away in the car. They crash, and then he finds out that honking his car horn
stops. Yeah,
makes Bigfoot's the one thing.
Can't stand it.
Yeah, and so he ends up being able to run him up against a tree, and the axe that he gets hit with, like earlier, comes through his chest. And I mean, we think he dies.
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I think so too. But then, we get a big surprise at the end when the cops finally do show up and they're checking things out. We find out there's a lot of big feet out there, and for some reason those ones have yellow eyes, even though this one had red eyes.
Yeah, so there's at least there's a community of them out there, which is fine. That twist is, it's not really a twist because I always assume that there's multiple ones because that just makes sense to me. I get confused when a film posits that there is only one.
Right, because I don't think they were making a sequel to this.
No, I mean, I would watch it. I'd be like, hey, cool.
I mean, we'd have to, but...
Yeah, that's true. We would have to.
Can we talk about some of the characters?
Yeah. Firstly, I want to mention that the cast of this movie is really nice. Like, you get Matt McCoy is Preston, and I don't think Preston's like an incredibly great character on the page. It's interesting that they're doing the Rear Window gag, and that the main character's like, in a wheelchair, so escaping Bigfoot's a little more problematic for him. But other than kind of like look through binoculars and send emails, there's not a whole lot there for Preston. But I like Matt McCoy. All kinds of like fun faces popping up. And the girls next door, I think Haley Joel was the main Amanda one.
The actress's name? I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
And then Tiffany Shepis was Tracy. So you got Jeffrey Combs, he was like my favorite of the look of the characters. I thought he was the one that I was like, I buy that this guy is at the campfire hunting for Bigfoot. And he doesn't even have a gun. He's just excited about Bigfoot.
Boys, we're not alone.
How did this movie
They
get
were proud of
Skywalker Ranch to do the
Like to do sound with?
Yeah, I have
don't
no
know.
idea how they pulled that off. But yeah, they got the Wilhelm scream in there. For Lance too, you wouldn't have put it on someone you don't. Obviously, so many people don't know what he sounds like. Then Dee Wallace shows up at the very beginning. She's like the
wife there.
Yeah, what we assume the wife there.
Ethel. Yeah, Ethel Haas.
Ethel Haas. I guess there was another last name.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite also is Paul Gleason shows up as Sheriff Dick Halderman. Sheriff Dick Halderman. Terrible sheriff. Long line of terrible sheriffs in these films. Someone calls for help and they're like,
But Bigfoot doesn't exist.
that's 25 minutes away. No, that's way too far away. That's what he says. Then he gets up to like,
I'm gonna go birth a monster in the toilet or whatever he says.
I wish that Paul Gleason got maybe a little more to do besides go use the bathroom. Sure, but I still just love when Paul Gleason shows up in something. I don't need it to be amazing.
Going to the head. I'm gonna give birth to a monster.
Yeah. Character-wise, I don't think anybody's particularly strong. I think they're fine. You got Preston and Otis in one house, and then the girls in the other house. And
Yeah,
then
they're
the
basically
hunters.
indistinguishable from each other and character-wise, just because like none of them really get any character except for Amanda, because she's the one that survives long enough to go with him.
Preston doesn't come off particularly well in this
he's
movie.
sending them texts like,
He's
your
texting
friend
the
has been
girls.
taken into the woods, call the police. Or like, turn that music off now.
He's banging on the window in his chair, like,
Flipping his lights.
holding binoculars, like, girls.
Hello? Can you hear me?
What are you looking at, you perv?
Oh, what the hell? Has that been Roku screen this whole time?
The score,
That was fine.
yeah, it didn't impress me incredibly, but I mean, it worked. I wasn't like jarred by it at any point.
I mean, I thought
Felt like
they
it seemed
definitely
in.
made me believe that there was some hulking figure outside the house
Right.
stomping around, and that worked. So yeah, I think it's one of the more technically accomplished movies we've had. There's a
For
couple.
sure.
There's a couple
we got
little
Bigfoot
things.
Vision again, which is
I mean,
always gets a thumbs down for me.
yes,
Especially
but
when they do it with the ring and the red and the white or whatever they're doing in this one, the blue or whatever color they want to put.
it's got to be the best Bigfoot Vision we've seen. Though,
I mean, it
because
looks like he
there's-
can actually see a little bit.
The effects were great. I really liked the way that Bigfoot looked. I like that, the stuff like the window kill where he pulls her through, or the stomp. Like, there's a very visceral quality to it. You can
Right.
feel when people die, and it's like, oh, cool.
I was worried at first because some of the, we weren't getting much of that. We weren't getting much in the special effects, but they really saved it for the latter half of the movie.
Yeah.
Because at first you get some off-screen kills, you get the Wilhelm scream. He likes to do this grab-and-go kind of thing where he just, nabs him while he's running. He's picking up a fumble or something. The lighting has some altogether, the camera work is better than a lot of them.
Yeah, it just looks competent. It just looks like a real movie, and you don't really have to. It doesn't do anything that is gonna blow you away. Not really, no.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna be constantly thinking about why would someone do this?
Right, you're not wondering if the person who made it had ever done anything before.
what's the social value of this film?
Social
What do you
value.
think that is? Because again, there's not like some great story or message to it, but it just comes in. It's 94 minutes long, and you get to have fun watching Bigfoot murder people.
The only thing they really try and do, I feel like, is do this weird Yeti Bigfoot distinction, which we already kind of talked about doesn't work because you're saying it's one thing, but then when you're showing it to us, it looks like the thing you're saying it's not.
Get Dr. Seuss Meyer out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I disagree with the doctor. I think it serves its purpose very well. And I'm going to give it 4 big feet out of 5, which is probably generous, but I've seen it enough times. It's got a real rewatch factor for me in a good way.
You know, like I've talked about before, that I kind of weigh Big Feet separately from something like Stars. And I am going to give this one also 4 big feet.
Yeah.
It's doing most of what I would want one of these movies to do. It's a cool, 94 minutes or something like that. It goes by pretty fast. The characters, at least the main characters, are like watchable. Like you say, the acting is better here than we've seen in most of the others. So
vast majority.
I mean, yeah, I think we can call it.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. We've done it. And this is our last episode.
Well, no, hold on. Now that you can't, just because we found a movie we liked, that doesn't.
Well, I think that we kind of, this was marketed as the search for the good Bigfoot movie. And
imagine going to a park and you find a tree that you really like there, but all the other trees are withered and dead. Could you really say that you liked that park?
No, I don't like this park. I want that to be clear.
Yeah, but we've got to explore the whole
we wanted
park.
to find the tree. We found the one tree.
You want to stop and go back to the van and be like, we found the tree, we're done. And
Yeah.
I'm here with my flashlight.
Pour some water on
in
it.
the
Let's
woods.
keep it alive, and then let's get out of here.
I want to see all the other trees. I want to
You see the other dead trees.
Maybe there's life out there. Maybe there's more than one. If you want to program your Bigfoot night and you're like, oh, I wanted to hang out for more than 94 minutes. What's the other?
You know what? Let's let the people decide. If I'll look into this one. If it's got solid responses across the board, like I imagine it. I imagine it's probably
it's
generally
liked.
considered to be good.
movie.
Good, right?
Not by critics. They seem to really dislike it.
He's pretty darn strong, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I did expect him to be strong, but
Right.
seeing him pull the Tracy through the window and like break her spine like a toothpick it was nice to have that belief validated.
He's picking up cars. He's knocking down power lines. Was big. I wouldn't call him bigger than Bigfoot. I wouldn't call him. He's Bigfoot.
No, this one's jaw seemed to be able to unhinge and kind of
had
like do
those
the
big old teeth.
yeah. He could put a couple sandwiches in there.
He lives in a cave where he has bones from other meals he's had. So
that's true.
He's taking stuff back home. He's eating it there.
Yeah, so Bigfoot looks pretty gnarly, I would say. I really like what Bigfoot looks like, but I distinctly remember both times I watched this with you, you laughed out loud at the first sight of him, and I don't, I
He's
get
silly
it.
looking. He's silly looking.
It's one of those weird things where like Bigfoot has a mustache, and I know that sounds crazy, but once you've seen him, I don't know how to picture Bigfoot without a mustache. Sometimes it's just weird to picture someone without a mustache. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's got that little bit of humanity that you want when you see Bigfoot, of like, oh, this could potentially be the missing link, but you hope it's not. You're
Right.
like, ooh, I don't want to be related to that.
With his red eyes, he uses Bigfoot vision like we've seen before.
Bigfoot vision.
However,
can see out of his eyes.
It's pretty consistent, it seems like. This one's working at night for the most part.
Yeah, Bigfoot is nocturnal here. So the film does posit that there are multiple big feet, but we didn't really get a good sense of
what the community is
like. We know that they stick together, and it seemed like they either saved the one at the end or took away the body. And they said they couldn't find the other bodies either. So there's treatment of the dead.
There was a skull, too, in that cave that I thought looked, a little suspicious. Not necessarily like a human, but not like other animals you'd find in the forest. So maybe that was another
as far
one
as
of them.
Temperament goes, this Bigfoot was definitely very feral and very angry. And I think that Preston had his theory about Bigfoot being full at one point and that he would leave them alone for a while, but I question what does a while mean, because it was like 5 minutes. And I don't think that Bigfoot ate his whole meal. Like, I think he took a bite out of Michelle, but other than that, you know, these bodies are being saved for later. So Bigfoot is really just wants to kill. There's a bloodlust beneath that fur. Probably one of the dumber big feet that we have encountered. The only thing that really says that this Bigfoot has a higher degree of intelligence is the taking out of the phone lines, which could have been a coincidence. I mean,
Well, but then he takes out the power too, so it feels a little more deliberate at that point.
It does feel deliberate at that point. So maybe this Bigfoot has more potential than I'm giving him credit for, but probably not the smartest foot in class.
Welcome to StatSquatch, where we crunch the numbers.
Snicker snack.
So in this movie, Bigfoot appears on screen for a total of 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Pretty decent. Bigfoot kills 8 people in this movie, 4 of which are off screen, the first 4, and the following 4 are on screen. There are a total of 9 big feet in this film. One of which does all of the killing, and we follow through most of the movie, and the other 8 aren't revealed till the very end. As for the location this film takes place in, why don't you take a walk with me?
So we know it takes place in the United States because there's rule of law. They said the town was Flatwoods.
Right, and there's 2 Flatwoods. There's one here in West Virginia, one here in Kentucky, marked by those 2 almond joys.
We do know that there is a Flatwoods monster in Kentucky or West Virginia. West Virginia. We're pretty sure that that was a robot
Alien thing. So that's something totally different. That's not going to be where we're at. Now, in the director's commentary, they mention that maybe Bigfoot's eating mountain goats, whatever he eats. Okay, so we checked out the mountain goat population, and that's going to be these Tic Tacs
here
in California.
There's one in South Dakota.
And there's one over here in Utah, and then we had a little collection in Colorado. So we kind of cross-referenced those 2 things, and what we came up with was that they're in 2 totally different places. So we're going to disregard the almond joys.
And we know the film was shot in California.
Right, but there's no Tic Tacs there.
There are no Tic Tacs there, and some of the rock structures look more evocative of the Oregon-Washington area.
Right, so we are thinking one of these 2.
I don't want you to use the Kit Kats because they're my favorite.
Okay. And that concludes StatSquatch. Thank you for joining us.
Well, on the next episode of SasqWatch, though, we are going to be watching Abominable, but this time, 2019 Abominable.
Okay, so what's going on in this one? Is it a remake? Is it,
Maybe it's 2020. I don't remember. It's just a completely different killer Bigfoot movie.
Okay.
There's a non-killer Bigfoot movie called Abominable as well.
Oh, that's like 2019 or something?
Somewhere right around there. Somewhere close enough to where I get them confused. But the animated film is not the one we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching... No.
The Chloe Bennett starring animated film?
No, that'll be in a later season. Instead, we're going to be covering the one about the team of soldiers.
We're caught in a natural anomaly, a prehistoric gap.
We're being followed.
An abominable creature.
SasqWatch.
I would need both remotes.
And then let's quickly look at the turd burger scene.
Herd Burger, I just want to see if you call again. You guys do it. Herd Burger, get off!
I heard Herd Burger.
I heard turd burger.